we already got live viewership. So the word already got out. So this is going on the internet. And again, it's Native Media Network. And so you're one of our very first guests. We did it about an hour and a half, just a little bit ago. And again, former president, two-time president of the National Congress of American Indians, current lieutenant governor of the Chickasaw Nation, and one of the great shell shakers of all time with the stomp dance. Tell me, first of all, why did we come to Atlanta? Some people were wondering, why Atlanta? And I saw on the agenda this morning that United Southeastern or South and Eastern tribes were on the agenda. One of the representatives, I believe it was, and then Michelle Hicks from the Eastern Band of Cherokee. And so, I mean, I guess it's about time you came into to the Deep South.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I know that Brian Patterson from the president of the United South and Eastern Tribes mentioned it this morning, and the question is, why not? Why not come to Atlanta, Georgia? This is the heart of the Southeast, the hub for travel, the airlines industry, pretty much. If you're going anywhere in the southeastern part of the United States, you normally come through Atlanta, Georgia. But more than that, the South and Eastern tribes, of which, if you look at Oklahoma, the Trail of Tears began in this area, in this region. The Cherokee Nation, obviously, was a major part of that. The Muskogee Creek Nation was here in Alabama and Georgia. The Chickasaw Nation in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky. And then, of course, the Choctaw Nation in Mississippi and Alabama, Georgia. And the Mississippi Band, Choctaws, is still here in Mississippi. So there are a lot of tribal nations that are formerly from here. But then if you look now at the Seminole tribe of Florida, the Mckosato tribe, the Porch Band, the Creek Indians, and there are a number of state-recognized tribes in North Carolina, in addition to the Eastern Band of Cherokees, which is a federally recognized tribe. There are a lot of native people in the Southeast. And so this is logically a place where the National Congress of American Indians would come to hold their national meeting, bring people in. It's fairly easy to get to by travel, and obviously the hotels and accommodations are good. The host tribes are very not just courteous, but they are very accommodating and welcoming to all of the people across the country to come here. So it's a great place to be.
So they're showing their appreciation.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, good deal. I noticed that one of the title is Tribal Governance for the Next Generation, and it says strengthening governance, and I was just sitting there thinking to myself, tribal government, it's not the same old tribal governments your dad or your grandpa used to know.
That's true.
It's kind of, explain a little bit about what exactly that title, where it comes from, and what it means to the tribal nations of Turtle Island.
Well, let me tell you that my view on this subject. When you look at, and you just mentioned it, what our ancestors did, the founders of the National Congress, they came together 70 years ago to fight termination efforts by the federal government, policies that were not well-meaning for Indian people. In fact, they were to our detriment. They were still continuing policies from a century ago of trying to do away with the Indian tribes and the federal commitment. If you look at their sacrifices and what they wanted to do, their style of governance at that time was they were pretty much dependent on the federal government for everything that they did. The style of governments today has had to change. We've had to adapt with the times. Tribes no longer manage 100% poverty programs. You know, there are tribes now that are managing wealth and assets, and so we've had to change the style and adapt with the flow, meaning that tribes are in better position now to deal with those efforts of the federal government. Now we can go to Washington armed with, not with rifles as we did 150 years ago, but with lawyers,
Right.
with people who are
Lobbyists
who are very affluent and very equipped, very well equipped to deal with those types of attacks on our sovereignty, and that carries us forward to the next generation. How are our children, our grandchildren, going to be able to deal with the efforts and issues of today when we're looking at them 20, 30 years from now? So we want to make sure that we're prepared. The next generation is prepared. We need to be equipping our young leaders today for those battles. And the best way to do that, the best way to change those old policies is to deal with federal Indian policy. Make sure we can get them changed now. Now's the right time, particularly with this president we have, administration who's willing to deal with Indian tribes and governments, and make sure that we're being fed the right information. We're at the table in terms of consultations and when decisions are made. So it's important that we do continue to be prepared.
Mm-hmm. You know, I guess, one of the criticisms that I hear when it comes to NCAI is that, you don't give the people who are out there on the front lines of the environmental battles, who are up there maybe fighting the Keystone Pipeline. You mean, or they're not out there, building youth shelter, that sort of housing, that sort of. And I try to explain to them, well, that's not necessarily what they're built to do, but at the same time, I know that the policies that are being made do help those people who are on the so-called front lines. And so, what have you seen as far as the connection between NCAI and the grassroots? Because I think sometimes they feel like there's that's NCAI and we do what we do, but really we're kind of all in the same battle or the same fight.
I think you're absolutely right. We all are in this together. What affects one tribe affects all of us individually at some point down the road. So when you talk about the connection of how we can deal with those issues, there are some tribes that feel, and rightly so, that they may not be well represented by NCAI. But let me just say, NCAI is an organization that is built, the executive board is governed by regional representation. Every region in the country has an opportunity to have a regional vice president and an alternate from that region, so that every tribe within that region, which really means that every one of the 566 federally recognized tribes is represented at the table in any of those discussions. And that includes all of the state-recognized tribes. For instance, the Lumbee tribe, which is a large tribe in North Carolina. Although they're federally recognized, that's a tribe that was federally recognized and terminated in the same bill. So their issues are the same as many others, although there's some discussion about that. But how we deal with those issues and how we link them together is that every issue that comes to the table, to the floor of NCAI that's debated for policy discussion on how we deal with it and recommendations that we then send to the White House and to Congress, then is vetted so that every tribe in the country has an opportunity to either agree or disagree in the debate, and then we come to a consensus on how that policy and how that resolution or recommendation is voiced to Congress. And it works really well. Now, some of the tribes feel that they're not well represented. They simply don't they don't participate. If you don't participate, then you're not going to be very well represented. And the way you participate is, some people say, well, we want to pay dues. You know, you don't have to pay dues. You can go online and find out what the issues are, and state your preferences, make sure they're known. And I guarantee you, NCAI will listen and allow for that type of discussion to be taking place. And if not, we'll make sure that
Just remind our listeners, or viewers, I have to use the radio, but we've got viewers out there watching on the internet. Jefferson Keel is here with us. He's the Lieutenant Governor of the Chickasaw Nation, former two-time president, and also the vice president of the National Congress of American Indians. And he's sitting down to spend a little bit of time with us. But let's shift our attention on the Chickasaw Nation, because one of the things that I hear when I go home, back to Oklahoma, being from Oklahoma, is that the Chickasaws are taking over Oklahoma. You know, that's just what you hear. But you know, that's not true. But you guys are having a lot of success. Not just economic creation of jobs, but also bringing back culture and that sort of thing. What is the? There's probably several answers to this, but what's the secret to your success? Because you guys are really enjoying some success.
Well, I don't think it's any secret. I think that the recipe for success is a detailed plan and then execution of that plan. And I can tell you that Governor Bill Anatubby's been doing this for a long time. He's one of the most brilliant tribal leaders in the country. And the fact that he's been able to assemble a team. You know, we can't do all this together. We can't do all this individually. We have to do it together. So, you know, you assemble a team, the right team, with the right mindset. We established one mission. And every tribal member, every tribal employee understands what that mission is, and that's to enhance the overall quality of life for Chickasaw people. That's one tribe, one mission, and that's what we pursue every day. When you talk about success comes from, as I said, detailed planning, looking at what assets and resources we have available, dedicating the resources to that plan to make sure that we meet the needs of our people. Also, the very first thing is that the needs of our people have to be paramount in everything that we do. It has to be the very first thing that we consider. You know, when you talk about success, taking over Oklahoma, we're not taking over Oklahoma, we're buying it back. 1 acre at a time.
1 acre at a time.
And, you know, and I say that jokingly,
Right.
but we believe that the very best social program is a good job. If we can provide a job for our people, they can provide for their families, and then that also enables them to reach out to others.
And these values, these core values that you talk about, you know, detailed planning, execution of plan. I'm looking at another one of the sessions and one of the themes here, and that's protecting cultural legacy. These values are nothing new to the Chickasaw Nation or to tribes in general. This is part of our traditions that because of these, because you know, we can go back to the wars, the reservation systems, all the you know, removals, the terminate, all those things kind of took those away from us, but it seems like we're taking them back.
Absolutely. You know, when you look at the core values, as you just said, what our ancestors endured and sacrificed to bring us to the point where we are today, it's important that we never forget who we are. You mentioned the success. We've got some beautiful buildings, and we've built a cultural center in Sulphur, Oklahoma that we're very proud of. Worldwide attraction. And world class in its production and its activities. But that's what we do. Those buildings and all those things, that's what we do. That's not who we are.
Right.
We are a nation of people that is dedicated to making sure we take care of our own people. And the legacy that we provide our people is making sure that we never, ever forget where we came from and where we want to be.
All right, Jefferson Keel, appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to
Hopefully
be
we'll get
here.
a chance to talk next few
Okay.
days, and
Okay.
we want to bring in another one of our distinguished gentlemen here.
Oh, great.
I think you might know this.
He must have
this
gray hair.
gentleman. Yeah.
Distinguished
Yeah,
gentleman.
I used to make fun of gray hair. Now that I'm getting them, it's a good thing.
When you say distinguished gentleman, I think of Eddie Murphy.
I think of Joe Garcia.
Yeah, Joe Garcia. Hey.